Hi, I hope you're well. Today I want to talk to you about how I figured out what to do with my life. I feel like that's a huge thing to say, and I never thought I would say it. I've done another video on how to stop putting off your dreams, and in that video, I was saying that I really think there are types of two categories that people fall into, usually in their 20s or later. One of them is, I know what I want to do, but I'm too scared to do it. I'm scared of what others will think. I'm scared I won't be good enough. I'm scared I'll fail. And there's also the, I don't know what to do with my life. I don't even know what dream I want to pursue. So it's not like I'm putting off that dream. I just don't even know what it is. So I have been in both. I started in the I don't know what to do with my life camp, and then I moved to the I'm now putting off my dream camp once I'd figured that out. And now I have stopped putting off my dream. This is the dream for me. So I just want to talk about my experience with how I figured it out. There was no epiphany, no indicator really in my childhood that, it's not like you always hear interviews with actors and musicians, especially actors are like, I've always wanted to be an actor. When I was 3 years old, I was acting for everyone. And I feel like hearing stuff like that all the time, or like entrepreneurs that have all these childhood endeavors, it makes us think that if we don't have those experiences in our childhood, that we can't figure it out because, it's not like I've been wanting to do this thing forever. So I didn't really have that. My figured it out answer is that I want to be a coach. I want to be in the personal development industry. I'm obsessed with the kind of thing that I'm talking to you about today, with helping others achieve their goals. It energizes me so much. I am endlessly fascinated by it. And if you know me in real life, I will try to steer any conversation I can towards personal development kind of stuff, goals, habits, all of that kind of thing. I love asking a lot of questions and trying to help lift people up. Whether or not that always comes across, I'm not sure, but that's always my intention and what I'm interested in. So instead of telling you how to figure out what to do with your life, I'm not saying here, I don't want to say how to find your passion. For some reason, that find your passion thing really doesn't resonate with me. I think you can have things you're passionate about that you shouldn't spend all your time doing. I don't necessarily think find your passion is the right goal. I guess it's more so the purpose thing. I don't know where you stand on that, but for me, when people say find your passion, like there's so much advice for people in their 20s to find their passion and to just follow your passion, and to me those words don't mean much, so I'm not going to be using them. I'm going to just be using the words figure out what to do with your life, and instead of giving you advice and vague tips, I am just going to share my experience in the hope that it can help you reflect on yours, and in the hope that you can feel like you're not alone, because I definitely didn't know what I wanted to do for a long time and kind of just stumbled around and ended up here. A lot of hard work has gone into it, don't get me wrong about that, but I have never really known what to do, and I've spent a lot of time not knowing, and then I've spent time knowing and being too scared to pursue it. So sorry. I have a little fan here, just this little one. I get really hot when I'm talking and getting like really into talking about something, so just always seems to blow some hair in my face. So yeah, that's just really what I want to talk about. I hope you find it helpful, and I don't know, I just hope you see that You don't need to have some epiphany. You don't need to figure out what your passion is. Do you know what I mean? So I always do this when I'm talking. I find something to wave around, and I'm not going to do that. But I am going to do this. Okay, so as I was saying, I want to be in the personal development, coaching industry, making this kind of thing. I'm so obsessed with it. So I haven't always been obsessed with it, and I haven't always thought I could be someone that delivers this kind of advice. I like to think of what I'm doing not as giving advice, but sharing what I learn as I learn it, and kind of what I would like to teach my past self. That makes sense. I'm not really, I'm not a guru. I can't say that word, guru. I don't know anything you don't know. Honestly, I really don't think I do. I'm just sharing what I learn. I invest a lot of time into personal development, into self-awareness, improving all of that, and this is just me sharing the journey. So that's how it's kind of evolved. I didn't wake up one morning and was like, I've got so much amazing advice to share. In fact, it's always been why would anyone listen to me? I have no idea what I'm doing. But so in my childhood, if I had to point to one thing that connects with my current desire to be a coach and be in this personal development industry, I've always been obsessed with celebrity interviews and celebrities, in the sense that it's always been a fascination with what do they have that other people don't, what have they done to become successful, why is everyone obsessed with knowing everything about them, even the most boring things, like what is it about these people that's different. And when I was younger, there was no YouTube in the 90s or anything like that, so the only way I could really get that fix that I knew of was watching celebrity interviews, and I've always been obsessed with that. I have always loved Oprah. I still love Oprah, and just all that kind of thing. But there are so many things I could point to in my childhood that, could point me in a different direction. So if I was doing some other kind of career, I could say, well, in my childhood I did this. Do you know what I mean? Like I think everything makes sense in hindsight. So when people are like, well, in my childhood there's this experience in this one, and that indicates that I should be here now. We have selective memory, I think, and in hindsight it's clear what connects. There's a lot of things that don't connect. So yeah, I'm like anyone. There's so many different things that could say, oh, I should be a doctor, I should be an accountant, I should be a lawyer, oh, I should be an actor, I should be a singer. There's not much evidence for the singing bit, but you know what I mean. So I think that's one thing to keep in mind when you say that someone has always known what they wanted to do. Some people might have always known, but other people might just be connecting the dots with the benefit of hindsight. So that's what I'm doing when I tell you I've always been obsessed with what makes people successful. I am just looking back to my past and picking out a moment that connects. There's a lot that don't. So I have always been fascinated with that, but for a long time I was never really involved in it beyond that. Not until my early 20s, so a few years ago, around the same time I started Smart 20s in 2013. My little brother Alex actually encouraged me to read a book called The Go-Giver, which is by Bob Berg and John David Mann from memory, which is actually a personal development but mainly business book, and that just opened my eyes to I thought it was the best book. I've read better books since. It is still a good book, but more applicable to business than anything else. But it just opened my eyes to this whole new world. But it wasn't like when I read that I was like, oh my god, this is it. I was just like, this is so fascinating to me. Self-improvement, how to, really connect with other people and help them as much as possible. That's just what's endlessly fascinating to me. But when I was in high school and when I was in uni, so I read that book and started getting into personal development in uni, I was doing a law degree and I was doing a finance degree. I did commerce, majored in finance, and I also did a diploma in French because of why not try and do everything at once. So the reason I chose those things was because I finished school, I did well at school, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So actually when I left school and went to uni, I started by doing a course called International Hotel and Tourism Management. God knows why, honestly. It really, in hindsight, wasn't a good fit because, I don't know, it just wasn't me. But I loved the idea of, love traveling and all that kind of thing. And also, a couple of my friends were doing it as well. And I started in that, and then I did a business law subject in the first semester of that. I was like, oh, I definitely want to do law because I find it more interesting than what I'm currently doing, and I don't want to, I'm not interested in all this whole thing, like this degree just isn't for me. I don't want to learn the stuff and I don't want the outcome. So I changed to law, but I couldn't do that until the beginning of the next year. So for the second semester I did arts, majoring in political science, which totally not me. If you know me now, I don't even read the news. That's a whole other thing. I wouldn't say I'm completely uninformed, but a lot of news is just car crashes and murders, and I find them very interesting, but they don't put me in a good mood, and they make the world seem like a horrible place when really it's not. So I will talk about that at a different time, but I did that because my friend Lib was also doing that, and I thought, why not? And then I changed to law, and I added finance as well. So I kind of knew I wanted to do something like that. Well, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, and that seemed like the best option. I wanted to do something really challenging. I wanted to, just do something that required that challenge, and I would learn a lot, and also have, I guess, that approval from others. Not that I wasn't going to get approval from others, and not that that matters, but I was smart, and smart people do degrees like that, so I didn't know what else to do, so that's what I ended up doing. And so that dual degree was 5.5 years, which is how I ended up at uni for 6.5 years. And throughout that time I was definitely interested in law, but that's different to feeling like I wanted to work in it and that it was where I really wanted to be. So I figured out about halfway through, I kind of realized like, oh, I don't really want to be a lawyer. I don't really like confrontation, and I don't like holding a grudge just on the principle of it. So not that that's what being a lawyer necessarily is, but that's an element of it. And I just kind of realized that wasn't for me and that I didn't want to pursue that. But so I finished uni because I didn't know what else I would change to, and throughout the last 2 years of uni I was working on Smart 20s. It wasn't actually till after I finished uni that I started really trying, like I finally got out of my own way with all the self-doubt and the fear I had around doing this other thing called blogging. and putting myself out there as someone who was worth listening to me, I mean, even when I'm even when I'm sharing this with you, in the back of my mind I'm like, why would anyone care? But I have learned that people do, and I love watching videos like this that other people film. So I am getting out of my own way and sharing this with you. So I still have all of that. I've just learned I've turned the volume down and I don't listen to it. So yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And if you go back to my first blog posts, I was sharing that I didn't know what I wanted to do. I felt a lot of pressure to know what I wanted to do. There's so much chat around figuring out what you wanted to do, and this whole quarter life crisis thing, I think, is really brought on by the pressure we put on ourselves, and that is out there in our culture through the media, and especially social media makes it look like everyone else has got it figured out. I felt that pressure to know an answer, and the quarter life crisis kind of thing of I should have my dream job, or at least know what that is. I should be like, I should have my life together in my 20s, and I think, they say like quarter life around 25, because in your early 20s you're still giving yourself permission not to know what to do, because not that many people around you know what to do. I mean, still a lot of people around me don't know what to do. I say I know what to do, but this is just the best answer for now, if that makes sense. But when you're in your early 20s, you kind of give yourself permission not to know, and there's the promise of the rest of your 20s to figure that out. When it's around 25 and everyone, including the media, is telling you you're getting really old, my thoughts on getting older have also changed. Like, I just decided this year I'm not going to complain about it, and I'm not going to resent it, because it's a fact. It's gonna happen, and I've just felt, I turned 26 this year, and I just feel like, the best is yet to come. So I'm excited. But anyway, there's so much pressure to have it all figured out and to have this answer. Like, we're meant to have this answer, and when we get to 25 and we don't know, like, shit, like, how the fuck am I going to figure it out? And that's when it can get really overwhelming. But I really did feel pressure to have an answer, only really from myself, because like no one was saying like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Though when I went to like family gatherings and stuff, there's always, or you run into people from school, what are you doing? How's your life going? And you want to have an answer, and you want to say it's amazing. And there's just so much pressure to have that answer. So I didn't, but I always said, like, I never said I didn't. And this is, I think, where it probably isn't helpful for me. Like, everyone is pretending they've got it figured out. So like, to everyone, so like to me it looks like everyone else has got it figured out, but really they're just saying they have, because they don't know how to say, shit, I'm 5 years into this career and I do not want to be here. I have no idea what I want to do instead. Like, we all just pretend we've got it figured out, which kind of makes the problem worse, because then we think everyone else has got it figured out. But if everyone said, I have no idea what I'm doing, we would all maybe be a bit more comfortable. But anyway, so I've always felt a lot of pressure to have it figured out and to find my passion and my purpose and all of that. And there was never any epiphany. I guess I really just, through blogging about personal development, so if you are familiar with my blog Smart 20s, which is smart-20s.com, I blog about personal development and some lifestyle advice as well, but mainly personal development advice for women in their 20s, aka me. And I really saw through blogging about that the fact that I was willing to spend so much of my own time when I was getting nowhere by external standards. Like, I had no one reading it because I was too scared to tell anyone about it, but I was just so fascinated. Like, I was just willing to spend a lot of time and energy on it, purely like following my curiosity. And I just really wanted to, I guess it's pretty meta, but figure out what I wanted to do. And by focusing on that was what I wanted to do, like figuring that out, like personal development and helping others. And once I started learning more about it, I could share that with others, and then that would help them, and then they can help others. And like, through blogging as well, I've met so many people that are similar to me. Not that everyone needs to be similar to me, but it's nice having other people to talk to that are interested in personal development, because a lot of people have just resigned themselves to their life being the way it is, and not everyone is ambitious. That's completely okay. So, but it was nice to have people to connect with. So I never went, oh, this is what I want to do. It was just following my curiosity, not my passion. I don't want to say following my passion. I just followed that curiosity. I spent a lot of time doing it without any kind of outcome in mind. And if you have a think about what you do in your spare time and where you get that feeling of flow. So what is there that you do? It doesn't have to be your passion, but where do you spend time that, you know, hours and hours pass and you don't, like, you just, you know what I mean? Flow. Like, if you're watching, like, you could do something endlessly and it just feels, I want to say easy, but I don't mean it's not challenging, because blogging is definitely challenging, and there are a lot of worthwhile pursuits that are challenging, and I think the challenging part of it is what makes it fulfilling. But if you just think about if there's something you do that you could spend so much time doing, and you don't need to then ask, well, what career could I make out of it? Like, I think just being willing to follow that curiosity without an answer. The world's changing so fast. There are so many new opportunities. I think that just following your curiosity and seeing where that leads, and it doesn't have a set career keywords you can type into a job search, but just following that curiosity and seeing where it leads you. I know that might not be that great advice, but this is just me sharing what worked for me, and that was following my curiosity whilst doing other things, studying law and finance, working in insolvency accounting, and slowly but surely having that realization over a number of years that, hey, I'm obsessed with this stuff, and there are actually quite a few ways that I could turn this into my thing, and slowly moving the ship in the right direction. So that's really how I figured it out. I did a whole nother video on how to stop putting your dreams off, which is really, once you figure it out, like what happens once you have that realization, oh, like that I had, like, I would love to be able to blog as my main thing. Like, I wish I had so much more time for this instead of a couple of hours before my full-time job. And so how you then go from like not knowing what to do to knowing what to do but being too scared to pursue it, to pursuing it. Like, I think that's kind of the evolution that most of us go through. It's definitely what I'm going through. I've taken the leap side of it, and I am sure there's so much more to come, a lot of challenges and a lot to learn. But I now know the direction that I want to go in, and I think it's gonna show up in so many different ways, and there's so many different ways to pursue that. So when I say as well, like, following your curiosity, my curiosity isn't blogging. My curiosity is the personal development, the why do some people succeed and others don't? Why are some people happy and others aren't? Why do some people enjoy being challenged and why do some not enjoy it? Like, all of that, like, why do we do what we do? That's what I want to know. So at the moment, that is being pursued through blogging, through creating YouTube videos like this, and I am going to become a coach, a life coach. And then there's also, like, there's so many ways, and like, in 50 years, I'm sure blogging won't be a thing, and there'll be something way bigger and better. And it's just having that curiosity for me, why we do what we do, and following that and seeing where it takes me, not having, I need to be a blogger, because I don't. I just have this curiosity, why we do what we do, and, you know, what, like, why we say and feel like we want to go to the gym and then we don't go, why we want to eat healthy but then we don't. Like, that to me is just so interesting. So that's how I figured out what I wanted to do. And as I was saying, there was never an epiphany. It just crept up on me as I followed my curiosity, as I invested time in the things I'm interested in, which is another thing as well. If you are saying you're too busy to do anything but your full-time job or your full-time study, I would really encourage you to make time, at least an hour a day. Either wake up an hour earlier, spend an hour at night, spend 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night. You probably travel to and from work or to and from your uni or college, and you have time to be listening to podcasts, listening to audiobooks, creating. I'm not saying you have to have a creative pursuit, but even if it's just, you know, learning more about the industry you want to be in, like, make that time. Give yourself the chance to follow your curiosity. I know you might feel like you're too tired, and you might just be using that as an excuse to fill up your time. I'm not saying you're using it intentionally as an excuse, but often we'll say we're too busy. That's an excuse so that we're too busy, like, so we can say to ourselves, well, I would know what I wanted to do, or I would be able to change careers, or I would be able to travel if I had enough time. But we just, like, if you spend any time on social media, scrolling, Netflix, Pinterest, you have time for this. You're watching this video, you have time. So yeah, I just really think follow your curiosity and give yourself the time to do it, and to not be attached to any result. Like, I'm not saying do it for a month and you'll know what words to search for, or you'll have a certain career in mind. To just, and I guess part of it is just being okay with not knowing, and letting yourself be in that area of just trying things out, and not, and as much as you can, taking the pressure off yourself to have it figured out. You don't need to tell everyone. Like, if you are following your curiosity by, you know, reading up about something in particular, or thinking of going on an overseas trip or something like that, you don't have to tell everyone about it before you actually want to do it. And you don't need to, like, do you know what I mean? You can just do it for you and see what happens, and it might take a few weeks, a few months, a few years, a few decades. But I just think, try stuff out, give yourself the time to do it. See where it might lead you. Think about what you do that puts you in flow. When you think about that, don't think about, oh, but that can't get me a career. Just think about the things you do. Maybe it's interior design. Maybe it's creating things. Maybe it's solving financial problems. Maybe it's helping your friends with a certain kind of thing. Maybe there's a certain type of video or documentary or movie that you're always drawn to. Maybe there's certain books you read. Like, try and just, what do I like doing in my spare time? What would I do that I don't need to get paid for to do it? And I would not say, like, if that answer is Netflix. I mean, that could tell you something about your curiosity, or it could tell you you're procrastinating. But really being honest with yourself, it doesn't have to be something that could be a career. Like, for me, it was before I started a blog, it was watching interviews, celebrity interviews with entrepreneurs, anyone successful. And so I didn't think that and then think, oh, well, I need to interview people, or I need to, be a celebrity, or I don't know. Do you know what I mean? That's not the thing. The thing was underneath that. The reason I was so interested in that is because I'm really interested in why people do what they do, what makes people successful, what makes people happy, what makes people fulfilled, and how to get there. And yeah, do you know what I'm saying? Just be curious and follow that curiosity without the need for an answer. So you can be really interested in something without wanting to work in that area directly, but it can come up in another way. So that's really my experience. I hope it's been helpful, but I hope as well, if you don't know what you want to do yet, that you know that I was right there with you, and I was there for a long time. I know that's probably not what you want to hear, but there is another side to it. If you keep pushing through and keep paying attention to what you're curious about and putting yourself out there, it's not, like, I think as well, this whole find your passion thing, I think part of my issue with it is that the word passion, I think, makes us think that the thing we should be doing shouldn't feel like a challenge. It shouldn't feel out of reach. It shouldn't feel uncomfortable. I think, like, everything about the stuff I'm doing now makes me feel challenged, makes me feel uncomfortable, feels out of reach. And that doesn't mean it's, do you know what I mean? Like, I think the word passion, we associate that with things that are easy and effortless, and there will be that flow, but I'll tell you, a lot of times there is not any flow whatsoever, and it just feels like you are pushing shit uphill. I can't think of that saying, but pushing stuff uphill. What's it saying? So it doesn't need to be something that feels easy and that necessarily lights you up. Do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to do that all the time. Just something you would read about in your spare time. And that's the kind of, like, I realized I would never read about anything law related in my spare time. I just didn't have that interest. Definitely was always interested in crime news, but that, I think, is more connected to why we do what we do, how some people can do absolutely atrocious things to others, and then other people could never do that. Like, I think it plays more into that mindset and mental health and everything like that, more so than the law side of it. Like, I was never like, oh, that's so interesting, it relates to this case and that judge said this. I was more interested in, wow, like, that person chopped someone up into tiny little pieces. Like, how the fuck, do you know what I mean? Anyway, I'm getting off track, but it doesn't need to feel easy and effortless. it can definitely be something that challenges you, that scares the shit out of you, that makes you feel incredibly uncomfortable and unsure of yourself. I would think it's a shame to rule out anything that does those things, because that's probably it. If it really does scare you, in that, the good kind of scared, if I'm just thinking randomly here, but if someone was to say to me, you are going to go and fly this huge Airbus plane today, I would shit myself and be very scared, because I actually don't have any idea how to do it and will probably kill everyone. But that's a different kind of fear. It's like, that fear that that's such a random example. How does my mind work? So what I'm trying to say is, it's that kind of fear that is scary because it's like you want it. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to fly a plane, like a giant Airbus plane, when I don't know how. But I do want to do this kind of stuff, and it scares me. Not as much as I thought, actually. I think I've built myself up to this, but you know what I'm saying. So follow your curiosity. Doesn't need to be something that feels easy and effortless, but what do you do in your spare time? You don't need to have a job title answer to that. It can just be the weirdest little thing, and give yourself permission not to know. If you need to tell everyone else you've got it together, you can do that. If you just need to figure this out by yourself, you don't have to say, I actually have no idea and I'm thinking of this and this and this. If it's easy to just have that sorted out by yourself, then do it. If it's easier for you to say, hey, I actually have no idea what I'm doing with my life, that's completely fine. I'm sure you'll find a lot of people that can relate to you, and it can really help you get closer to others, because I guess that's the thing I've realized, that adults don't, when you're little and everyone that's over the age of 20 just seems like they've got it all together, they're confident, they know what they're doing, and then you get here and you're like, no one knows. And we hear so many successful and famous people say that they don't know what we're doing, and even when we hear that, we're like, oh, sure you don't. But they don't. I feel like hardly anyone has got it together, and I don't know why we've ended up with this culture of, the media glamorizing success and putting the pieces all together so nicely that if we don't have that ourselves, we think something's seriously wrong when we're right on track. So that's all I wanted to share with you today, how I figured out what I wanted to do, and to give you permission not to know, to take that pressure off. I hope it's been helpful. Please let me know in the comments if you have anything to say, or if you want to email me about this video or any others. My email address is sam@smart-20s.com. I will talk to you again very soon. Bye.